Hello, everybody. Welcome to our March community meeting. I'm going to go ahead and just dive right in. Thanks for joining us today. So for today's meeting, first we're going to start out how we often do with a community celebration and announcements, and then product roadmap updates from Anna, our senior product manager of GX. And then James, the CTO and co-founder, will update y'all on the current state of GX 1.0 and what to expect with the upcoming release. And then we've added our second data source to the GX Cloud UI, and Austin, senior developer advocate at GX, will be demoing it for you all with this Postgres in the Cloud UI demo. And then I'm just going to give a bit of a public preview event recap from last month. And a bit about what that means, as well as wrap up with some announcements. So let's jump on over to the community celebrations. As mentioned, we'd like to kick these things off by recognizing the exceptional individuals in our community who go above and beyond to support our fellow users and members of the community. Each of the people on this list has taken the time and effort to respond to at least a couple questions and provide assistance to others in need over the past couple months since our last community meeting. And while we would love to offer, comprehensive technical support, the reality is our team's resources are limited. So this is precisely why the support provided by these community members so invaluable and deeply appreciated. Additionally, a special shout out to Toivo, who went especially above and beyond, helping others the past couple months, answering a lot of people's questions and helping guide users. I also want to highlight this community talk that was recently given by Cesar Garcia. He's one of the GX champions. He gave this talk at PyData Global. In this talk, he demonstrates how to measure and improve the quality of open data using great expectations. And according to the YouTube description, attendees will learn quality testing techniques and methodologies to prepare high quality longitudinal data sets using open data from cities and regional portals. Okay, now with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand things off to Anna, who will be giving product roadmap updates.
Cool. Thanks, Molly. Hi, everyone. I'm Anna. I'm a product manager at Great Expectations, and I am actually a recent addition to the organization. As I joined in January of this year, and I know there's only been one meetup, I think, since then. So excited to be here today presenting the product roadmap. So a couple of things to call out in the recently released column here. I'm very excited to announce that Postgres is now available in the Cloud UI. We've had lots of folks setting up expectations on Postgres data sources and open source, and the cloud product hasn't fully supported it until now, which means we hadn't completely tested its workflows and things like validating data from the UI weren't possible. So you can now connect to Postgres directly from the cloud product and create expectations and run validations on those data sources in the product. So this means that we are up to 2 fully supported data sources in cloud, Snowflake and Postgres, and we have a long roadmap of additional data sources to come. So if there are any data sources folks here are particularly interested in, definitely drop a comment in the chat and I will collect those and help prioritize the roadmap there down the line. Next, we have our long-awaited org-based agents. So the agent is our recommended deployment method for GX Cloud, and it ensures that data doesn't leave your environment and you fully control the data sources and credentials that GX Cloud has access to. And we previously were requiring every user in GX Cloud to be running an agent in order to perform any kind of operations in the product. And we've moved away from that to the idea of organization-based agents, which means that now you should be always deploying your agent in a production environment in cloud infrastructure within your own organization so that the agent is always on. And so what this means is that not everyone in your organization needs to be aware of how to build an agent, how to run an agent on their local machine. And you don't have to have every user in the product running their own agent. So this is a big win for reducing redundancy within your organization, and a big win for collaboration as well, right? This will allow both technical and non-technical users to collaborate in the product to build expectations without having to know exactly how GX Cloud is running under the hood. So I'm really excited about that one. And then invalid data source configuration improvements. So this is an update to our backend, where previously, if a data source configuration had invalid or missing values, we would throw an error when loading your data context in the cloud product. So with this release, these data sources are loaded as an invalid data source instance. So it'll retain the details of the original configuration error, but otherwise doesn't affect the usage of other unrelated data sources. So improvements to error handling can be very underrated, but I think they really do make a difference in user experience. And so I think this is a really great step forward for how the cloud product works. And then over in the coming soon section here, more expectations are coming in cloud. We have around 15 today, and we definitely want to get many more of the GX and community built expectations into the UI. So we have a really clear path to around 50 expectations that we'll support in the cloud products, and then we'll continue to build on that from there. So look out for that over the next month or two. We are looking at improving our onboarding path as well. So we've been doing a lot of research, a lot of thinking here about how users get started with GX Cloud, whether or not they've already interacted with OSS in the past. And so we are on the journey to build more directed paths in the cloud product that we hope will make the onboarding experience smoother for everyone. And we'll be incrementally releasing those improvements over the next couple of months. And then the last one here is just a reminder. We released these Fluent style data source setup options for folks, I think over a year ago at this point. And so block style data sources have been deprecated for quite some time. And so at this point, we are actually going to sunset block style data sources. So if you have any remaining data sources that are set up in this old method, make sure in the next couple of weeks to get those migrated over into the Fluent style data sources. And we can help you with that as well if you need support there. But a reminder that sunset date is coming imminently. So we'll have to make sure that folks are migrated over before we can fully shut this down. And as always, the product team is looking for feedback all the time. So if you have general feedback or feature requests for us, you can either find me in Slack, Anna Barr, or you can email the team at product_feedback@greatexpectations.io. And then we are specifically looking to recruit some folks for pricing research over the next couple of weeks. So leave a comment in the chat, or again, Slack me or email us at product_feedback if you are interested in chatting specifically about that, because we would love some more feedback from the community around our plans there for GX Cloud. That's it for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anna. I'm going to pass this off to James. James, you want to share your own screen so you can kind of go at your pace?
So
Were you not ready?
Well, I thought I was going to use your slides, but no, now I'm on it. So now I'm going to switch over and share my screen.
Okay.
So my goal is to give just an update on where we are on the 1.0 process. We're super excited about getting this into your hands. Are you seeing the right screen here?
Yep.
Okay. So we have sort of 4 key goals around the 1.0 release. One was making the API much easier to use. Second was improving the documentation to make it clearer in concert with that so that you can find the easier to use capabilities. Third is making it easier to extend and contribute and understand exactly where you can and cannot extend great expectations. And then lastly, setting the groundwork for us to be able to deliver features more quickly going forward. I want to start off by talking about where we are on easier to use. One of the things that we've done is really make explicit different workflows that you use in Great Expectations, specifically clarifying the difference between a development and a production workflow that you would write in the GX Core API. That means there's no more validator. So in order to add expectations in the 1.0 API, it's a very explicit process of creating and adding expectations to a suite. And when you want to test expectations, potentially modify them, you do that with a clearer semantics on the expectation itself, and then validating expectations against a batch of data. In all cases with the API, these changes that we're making, they're all designed to be consistent across all the parts of Great Expectations and have semantics that should be familiar to data developers and Python users. Some things I'd call out here. You'll notice that we're using the class names of expectations now instead of the method version of the names. So for users who have Great Expectations code, this would be an area where there's going to be some kind of significant amount of code change to flag. Should be pretty straightforward for making those changes. Other changes that you'll need to make are around, again, the removal of any references to validator and moving those over to being directly manipulating either a batch or a expectation suite, depending on which behavior of the validator you were trying to use. The next big area is that we are making very explicit the notion of a batch definition and a validation definition. In the Great Expectations API, historically, batch definition, which means the way that Great Expectations identifies each individual batch of a data asset to validate. So, for example, that might mean it's a snapshot of the whole app's asset. So the entire table at the time that you're running each validation, or it might mean that you want to grab just the most recent day or some specific date. That was conflated into the data asset, and now those concepts are different. So first you create an asset, and then to that data asset you can add one or more batch definitions. And similarly, the validation definition previously was only available in the context of a checkpoint. And so you had to create a checkpoint in order to describe which expectations should be validated against which data. And now that's explicit in the validation definition. And then the last thing to highlight is just the checkpoint API. I think when we were looking originally at the behavior of Great Expectations 018 and the checkpoint API in particular, there were something like 15 different parameters that the checkpoint could take, and we've just completely slimmed that down. So now when you run a checkpoint or to declare a checkpoint, you just provide validation definitions. So which data, which batches of data against which suites of expectations and actions to take based on the results. And then when you run a checkpoint, you can define the specific parameters of batches to get. So for example, if you were validating daily data, you could provide the specific year, month, and day of the data to validate, and any suite parameters, which is what used to be called evaluation parameters. And some of those names were still, we're still making the specific name change, but the key change here is that the checkpoint has basically 3 parameters to it: the name, what checkpoint you're going to run, and then the parameters of what dynamic values for expectations are, and what specific batch of data to get. as part of making it easier to use, there have been a bunch of things that we have removed. And so I want to just quickly walk through those. The first is the concept of computed evaluation parameters. So there was some syntax that was available in the 018 version of Great Expectations, where you could provide this very long URN in order to access previous validation results. And you could define some custom arithmetic or functions directly in those. What we found is that was confusing. There were a variety of different code paths that were getting mingled together. And so we're just simplifying that by removing any of the computed values. And when you want to define an evaluation or a parameter for an expectation, you just simply pass that in at runtime when you're validating the data. So that way the logic for defining what that value is clear. You can put it directly in wherever you're running the checkpoint instead of mingling it in with the Great Expectations code. We're also removing add or update methods to update configuration in favor of a more explicit process of add, save, or delete. We're removing some of the convenience methods that used to exist on the data context. And that just really it just makes it clearer so that we can always define for you exactly what you should do. So for example, to get an expectation suite, context.suites.get, which is just like context.sources and context.validation definitions. All of them have the same pattern. We're removing the entire dataset API, which hopefully nobody even remembers. It's very, very, very old, from the very early time of how Great Expectations was implemented. It's not consistent with using the data context to manage suites or data docs. Similar to that one is validation operators, also very old. And all of the functionality of validation operators is available, and more is available inside checkpoints. So we're just removing that from the code at this point. And we're also removing the profiler and data assistant APIs. And that one we've talked about a couple of times. The goal there is to reintroduce the same capability using an API that's built on top of the capabilities that we're describing now in terms of a clearer delineation of batches and expectations. There are some things that will remain that are experimental. So I'd call it row condition, for example. So we will clarify those and ensure that it's clear when you are using an experimental feature that is going to be subject to continued change going forward. Any questions on all those? As very much like Anna mentioned, we're very interested in feedback on these changes. They're not live yet. And in some cases, there are name changes that we're still actively making, and as we go through and make sure that everything is harmonized. So please reach out in the mechanisms, either directly to Molly or any of the ways that Anna was mentioning in order to get feedback on any of these changes. The next thing is documentation. We actually made a pretty substantial investment in versioning the document, in a better versioning of the documentation, so that not only will it be easier for us to have clear documentation now, but it'll be easier for us to maintain it and improve it going forward. So one of the ways that it's actually available now, if you were to go into our doc site and look at the pre-release drop down for 1.0, you can see there's content is still very actively filtering in as we bring over and adapt it. We're trying to keep it clearly focused on the actions that you need to do and make it easy to find the behaviors and like the workflows that you're expecting to go through as a OSS user. And then, who doesn't love a good chart? So the last thing I want to flag here, in terms of improved extensibility and faster development, one of the things we really focused on is clarifying the relationships between all of the core objects in our domain. And then what we're planning to do as part of the 1.0 release is for each of these describe exactly where the API is in terms of openness for contribution. So for example, the actions like sending a Slack notification or a PagerDuty alert That API is very mature, and so we're eager for contributions there when there's an additional capability that you would like to add to Great Expectations. On the other hand, we're still making some really significant changes. I talked earlier about the custom expectations. We're making some significant changes to the metric provider or execution engine API. And so for that area, we're not ready, even at 1.0, we won't be ready for significant community contributions just yet. So we've been in this mode of pausing contributions. We're really excited about getting people engaged again, but we're going to be able to hopefully provide a lot more clarity around where those contributions are going to be valuable, how we're going to be able to include them into the releases of Great Expectations. All right, I think that's it. There's an update on where we are in 1.0. We're really excited about this. I think the faster development capability is something that internally makes us really excited, because I think we're going to be able to continue to add new ways for you to express the expectations that you need and improve the whole experience of working with the tool really quickly.
Awesome. Thanks so much, James. I don't know if you saw the most recent post in the chat. It says,
I
"LOL,
didn't.
I was asked to build this exact flow for tomorrow, so thanks." Awesome. Well, yeah, like James said, if you have any feedback, reach out. You can reach out at the product feedback email address that Anna mentioned. I am looking for it to see about. Oh, here we go. Yeah. I'll post it again. product_feedback@greatexpectations.io. You can also post feedback in Discourse and Slack. So I'm now going to pass the torch over to Austin, who's gonna talk about Postgres and the Cloud UI.
Yeah.
Take it away.
Hey, everybody. It's great to see some familiar faces and some new faces at these community meetings. So we're super excited to have Postgres available. I'm just going to show you what that looks like very briefly. I've got my clean, fresh, brand new Great Expectations Cloud instance here. If I create a new data asset, we now have Snowflake and Postgres, which is so exciting. I'm going to give this data source name is just anything meaningful for you. So we're going to say, and we're connecting just with a standard Postgres connection string, secure connection string. And we've successfully tested our connection to our Postgres data source. We're using if you've been to these community meetings before, if you've got a lot of exposure to Great Expectations, you'll be very familiar with our love for the New York City taxi data set. And it's that easy. In like 30 seconds, I've got a Postgres data source connected to GX Cloud. I can come in here and create expectations against this, and we'll validate it against our database as well, just because we can. So we have expectations set against our data source. Let's go ahead and validate them. And success. So we're hitting our Postgres data source. Everything's working as expected. I can even come back here to our overview and profile that data by fetching metrics. So our Postgres data source, one-to-one with Snowflake. If you're already a GX Cloud user, everything works exactly the same. Quick and easy to set up. And we do, in fact, have a take-home workshop to set up a demo Postgres instance and connect it to GX Cloud, which I think we can link out to. We'll grab that link in a moment. But encourage anybody, if you're a Postgres user, take a look at that workshop and then try us out in Cloud.
All righty. Awesome. Thanks, Austin. I went ahead and posted the workshop link you mentioned. I'm just getting my slides ready to reshare. Okay. Yeah, so Austin just, showed off this new Postgres in the Cloud UI. We also showed off and dove into a lot of stuff with Cloud last week. As some of you may realize and may have noticed, we replaced last month's community meeting with a public preview launch event. And so in case you didn't make it, I just wanted to give you a quick recap of what you missed. And then we can also post the YouTube video in the chat so you can go and watch it yourself if you'd like. And there's also a blog post, which we'll post as well. So yeah, what happened at the event? So first of all, Abe Gong, our CEO and co-founder, he gave an introduction and a brief history of like why GX was created and what problems they were out to solve with it. And then Rachel House and Nevin Tan, two of our other senior developer advocates, showcased GX Cloud in action with a live demo. Then there was a customer conversation. Stav Mehta from Altruist, he's one of our advisor customers who's been using GX Cloud for 4 months now, had a chat with Abe about Stavin's experience using GX Cloud and what it's like in a product environment. Then Hernan, the VP of Product, gave a detailed presentation of GX Cloud's product roadmap. And then we wrapped up by taking questions from the audience. And y'all asked a ton of good questions. Like we were overflowing with them, way more than we could answer, in fact. So we did our best to answer as many as we could live. But then the rest of them we made sure and capture, and some of the rest of them we're working on getting onto our website and into blog posts and discourse. So you can look out for that. And so just a really quick thing about like, okay, well, what does this mean? So GX Cloud is officially in public preview. And this means that public preview opened GX Cloud to members of our community, and that includes you. So it means that you can create a GX Cloud account completely self-service and immediately start using it with SQL data sources like Snowflake or Postgres. So yeah, you can, if you haven't signed up yet, you can do so today or whenever you like. And I'm going to close up with some announcements. So just wanted, there we go. It's worth mentioning that we are hiring a senior developer advocate. If you are a fan of GX and would like the opportunity to shape the developer experience and community for data practitioners from around the world, it'd be worth applying. So wanted to flag that to y'all because this might be the right audience for that role specifically. We're also looking for a senior product manager. And so if any of you have a friend looking, pass it along. GX is a great place to work. I highly recommend it. Granted, I'm biased, but yeah. Okay, so another thing is that we mentioned workshops a couple times. And so, yeah, we have a link will be posted in chat about where you can go and sign up for these. The workshops are focused on getting started with cloud and specifically focused on either getting started with Postgres or with Snowflake. So if you can sign up there and you can pick which one you want. And the whole goal will be to help get you set up. All right. Oh, there's the link. I guess I meant to have that there the whole time, but anyway. My last call out is that we love highlighting community members at these community meetups. And this could happen a few ways. One, if you have an idea for something that you'd like to present yourself at an upcoming meetup, this could be that you have a good use case. You want to talk about how you use it at your company, or it could be any number of things. Please reach out and send me your idea. Like I said, we really like having users present. Another way that we can highlight community members is if you or someone you know created some kind of GX content, perhaps a talk or tutorial, you can also send that over to us, and we may highlight that at the community meeting, similar to how I highlighted Caesar's talk earlier. Yeah, please reach out. You can reach out to me on Discourse or on Slack at Molly Pettit. And that is all we had for today. I think at this point, if anyone has any questions about what we went over, we can take questions. I will state this is not the time for product support questions. If you are having trouble in the tool, that sometimes comes up here, but that's not what this time is for. But if anyone has any questions about any of the product updates or anything like that, or the demo, yeah, this is the time.
Hi, I had a question.
Yeah.
So I work in a development context where I don't always control the dependencies in that development environment. And I've had some issues with Great Expectations having all these dependencies that aren't really relevant to my workflow. I was wondering, as part of the 1.0 rehaul, if there was going to be work scoping those dependencies, such as Altair, for example, in a more effective way.
Unfortunately, James had to drop. I can pass this along to him, but does anyone here feel like they can respond directly to this one?
I can say part of this 1.0 is a narrowing of scope in general for the library. So you will definitely see a narrowing of those dependencies. I can, off the top of my head, I couldn't speak to specific dependencies that are being carved out, but certainly we're looking for we're looking at a much lighter weight version of the library than what currently exists.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Let's see, I see a thread that you've been engaging with. Is this anything worth flagging or talking about? I'm trying to get caught up.
Yeah, just calling out that the open source software can be written in any environment. And that we are working on more documentation for 1.0 right now. I'm not sure actually if we have an 0.18 demo video out there. Maybe Aaron, you know better on that question, but yeah, 1.0 is coming.
Well, Bish have a question?
Sorry, I was on mute and being very animated. Sorry, I have a question. I actually have two questions. One is there's a GitHub issue raised about this. And again, in the same vein as the previous question, I wonder if this is going to be looked into in version 1. So currently when we run GX, it reads the main GX files, or like it reads it as read and write, which means it affects the file itself, which means we can't run multiple checkpoints like in parallel. And also it doesn't seem to have the perfect support for multi-line YAML. So if I have any queries and things in there, it gets rewritten in a different kind of way and I have to keep copying and pasting. So the GitHub issue that was raised mainly was whether it's possible in 1.0 to just open up the GX file as read-only rather than affecting it so we can run things in parallel.
I'm not sure about this. Does
That
anyone?
one I don't know the answer to.
Okay, but I can pass.
Okay.
I can pass this one along though. And if I get it, I'll pass this along to James. And I can
Thank you.
reach out to you if you're on Slack or Discord.
Yeah, thank you.
Or maybe just
Uh,
post. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I had one more just feedback is many of the examples in the documentation kind of really just show pandas. I can't believe that a major base of GX would not be using SQL. So having some kind of SQL examples would actually be really, really helpful.
Yeah, great. That's
all
good
for me.
feedback. Yeah, no, we appreciate it a lot. Thank you so much. Okay. If there is nothing else, I think we can go ahead and close at this point.
Yeah,
Just
thank you very much. I really love joining these communities and hearing people's experiences.
awesome. Yeah, thanks, Vish. All right, cool. Well, so just to kind of recap, you will be able to see 1.0, I believe in about a month, hopefully next community meeting. So there'll be more news on that upcoming. Very exciting. More things coming also in cloud. And yeah, I look forward to seeing everybody at the next meeting. And I hope you have a good one. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Bye.